Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Martin Pallante. I am the Senior Vice President of 2020 Management Consulting, Maier+Vidorno's representative in the United States and Canada. It's my honor, my privilege, and my great pleasure to welcome you this morning on behalf of the staff and management of Maier+Vidorno, and thank you for joining our webinar, India Market Entry Partner Search. For those of you who might not be familiar with Maier+Vidorno, M+V is a market entry specialist dedicated to assisting foreign companies' entry into the Indian marketplace. In addition, Maier+Vidorno supports the expansion of marketing activities by foreign companies with an established presence in India. My friends, before we begin the webinar, just one housekeeping announcement, and that is, if you'd like to ask a question, and we hope you do, just click on the orange rectangle in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. That will display a drop-down box. Input your question and submit it to us. At the end of the presentation, we will endeavor to answer as many of your questions as possible. Those which we don't get to, we will email the answers to everyone in attendance and share the information with you. My friends, any discussion of entering the Indian marketplace surely has to begin with a look at the country of India itself. India is a dynamic, unique, and diverse country that is absolutely pregnant with opportunity for foreign countries seeking to expand their global footprint. It consists of 29 states, 7 union territories, and surprisingly, at least surprising to me, there are 22 official languages spoken and written in India. From a landmass standpoint, India is 1/3 the size of the United States, but very importantly, it has 5 times the population density. So those two things we want to keep in the back of our mind: 22 official languages, 5 times the population density. How might those affect our entry into and existence in the Indian marketplace? India is a very educated country, producing approximately 1.5 million engineers on an annual basis. In fact, India is home to more engineers than any other country in the world. Additionally, India produces 300+ MBA graduates on an annual basis. What does that mean to you and me, companies thinking about going to India? Well, one thing it means for sure is there is a plethora of educated professionals willing and waiting to go to work for us. Ladies and gentlemen, anytime we talk to a company about the possibility of entering the Indian marketplace, the conversation ultimately revolves around 5 key questions. Those 5 questions will make the basis for our discussion today. Those questions are: 1, very importantly, why consider expanding into India? 2, is there a viable Indian market for my product or service? 3, why expand via a distributor partner? 4, what is the process for selecting a distributor partner? And 5, why collaborate with a market entry specialist? Let's answer that first question. First and foremost, India is an absolutely huge market with a population of 1.3 billion people that is increasing at the rate of 1.2 to 1.3% on an annual basis. It is the world's 2nd largest population. Right now, it's the world's 5th largest economy behind the United States, the European Union, China, and Japan. But economists predict by the year 2025, India will in fact be the world's 3rd largest economy. Of importance to those of us in the United States and Canada, India is the world's largest democracy. What does that mean to us? Well, what it means is while the governments aren't identical, when we go to India, there'll be a certain similarity in how the government acts, how the government responds, how the government regulates. That should provide a little bit of a comfort zone to us that we don't find in some other countries. Very important, the fact that there is a huge appetite in India for North American goods and services. As of the end of 2017, the U.S. balance of trade with India averaged a positive $131 billion. To put that into perspective, our government currently has a bad boy list that contains the names of 29 countries with whom we have a negative trading balance. Leveling the playing field has been a conversation that's been ongoing now for the last year and a half. In the case of India, that's not an issue. The Indians have a great appetite for our products, for our services. Lastly, percent per atom. A couple of other key economic indicators from India. When we look at the per capita GDP in US dollars by the trillion, we see an increase from approximately 1.857 trillion to 2.95 trillion over a period of 4 years. That represents just about a 30% increase in the per capita GDP in India, which equates to about a 7.5% per year increase. Now we can see that's not constant, but that is an average. Another important indicator, India's total personal disposable income in terms of US dollars has been increasing on an annual basis, upward trend at the rate of 31% from the period of 2013 to 2017. Let me make sure I didn't confuse people. The total increase, 2013 to 2017, is approximately 31%. Strong economic indicators, strong economic growth. The second question we have to ask ourselves, once we determine that India is in fact this huge dynamic market, we have to ask ourselves, is that Indian market viable for my product? My friends, there's only one way to accurately respond to that question, and that's to conduct a market assessment, an in-depth market assessment. And to do that, we strongly suggest that you cooperate with an Indian market entry specialist. Why? Because they're best positioned to accurately quantify and qualify. Answering the question, is there room for my product, my service in that market? A byproduct of the assessment is, what kind of an effective pricing strategy can I develop to gain entrance into that market for my product? Of great importance is the fact that the entry specialist knows and understands the local and federal laws. Very important, they understand the impact of regional saliency within the Indian marketplace. When we look back at that map, we saw 29 states. There's a great difference, a great diversity from the north to the south, the west to the east to the northeast. Those differences are expressed not only in languages, cultural differences, legal differences, infrastructure. The entry specialist can help you identify how those differences, how those saliencies will impact your ability to succeed in the Indian marketplace. They'll identify the language and cultural barriers. They'll make sure that you and we understand that India is a cost-sensitive market where people want a value proposition. The bottom line on all of that is, while we are thinking globally as expanding business people, we want to make sure that while we're preparing to go to India, and certainly when we get to India, that we act locally. And to do that, we have to understand what's happening there, why it's happening there, and how to accommodate that. Another thing that the market entry specialist does for us is they assess the competition. Who are they? Where are they? What are they? What do they sell? Why do people buy from them? Bottom line, what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? The market entry specialist will provide information to you that will help you differentiate your product, your service from the competition in India, and how to exploit that advantage. The next question, why expand via a distributor partner? Well, if we look at the right-hand side of the screen, we will see that the steps really are a triple tier kind of situation, where we first evaluate all of the various India market entry options. We shortlist the most profitable and optimum cost model for where your company is in actually penetrating the Indian market. And then finally, we finalize the steps of implementation to make that market entry possible. And when we look at it in this context, and we see the two arrows, the horizontal arrow that is the cost arrow and the vertical arrow that is the profit area, when we look in the upper left-hand quadrant, we see the importer-distributor model contained therein predicting low cost and high profits. We find it to be the very best model to use to enter the Indian marketplace. What are some of the advantages of the distributor market entry? First and foremost, it's cost effective compared to other models. It can be implemented in less time, 6 to 10 months, depending upon if registration is necessary for your product. Several products require market and government registration. The distributor model provides management simplicity. There is no managerial layering. It's a very basic reporting structure. It can be very clean, managed as simple as possible. Now, having said that, we all understand that managing in any situation is never easy, but we can make it as simple as possible in the distributor market model. Okay? Lastly, the distributor market entry model can act as a go, no-go decision supplement, because once you enter that market and establish your product there and start registering sales, you begin to think about what other activities, how can I embellish, how can I enhance my presence in this marketplace? The distributor market entry model allows us to use it as a launching pad to make that happen. Next question, kind of a side question, sub-question, how do we prepare to market with the distributor? Well, the route to best partnership with the distributor first confirms that you, the client, understand the markets. You understand them economically, culturally. You understand what the barriers are to entry so that you can plan a successful methodology for overcoming those barriers. Once you understand those things, then you have to establish realistic expectations that cover you from startup to profitability. What is your company's tolerance to go from startup to profitability? Once you've answered those questions, you have to agree on an equitable contract with the distributor or distributors that have been identified for you. That contract has to offer margins that are consistent with established English standards. It also has to recognize possible challenges inherent in maintaining profitable long-term relationships with the distributor. Bottom line, folks, and I know this is a cliche, you know it's a cliche, but it's also a realism. We have to plan for a win-win situation. Both sides have to be happy with what we've negotiated and how the contract works. The next important question, okay, India is good, our product works there, we understand that the best entry is through a distributor. How do we identify these distributor partners? With Maier+Vidorno, my friends, we go from a macro to a micro process. It begins with us understanding your requirements, what your needs are, what your wants are, what your expectations are. Based on your requirements, we long list 18 to 20 possible distributors out of the thousands that exist in India. We look at their revenues, their structure, their size, the price category, the product categories that they handle, what their networking capabilities are, what their geographic reach is, what their margin expectations are, and really, do they have an interest in working with you? Once we establish some answers to those questions, we put that into our proprietary process whereby we evaluate and weight the results that the answers produce. regarding the company's background. What's their customer base? How does it align with our product? What's their financial history? What kind of an infrastructure do they have? What are their marketing and branding capabilities? Are they going to be able to build your brand so that you can use that distributor model as a launching pad to expand your activities in India? Finally, what are their sales capabilities? How many salespeople do they have? Where are they located? How well educated? How well trained are they? How successful are they? Once we weight everything and shake out the answer, we end up with a short list of 5 to 7 potential distributors. Then we go and visit them, interview them personally, so that we have not only a paper understanding of who they are, what their capabilities are, but a personal interview understanding of what they do, how they do it, who they do it for, and how successful are they. And lastly, how they might merge and be synchronized with you. From that, we choose and focus on the final selections, be it 1, 2, 3, or 4. At that point, we discuss those with you. We organize your visits in India to that group of people where you can sit down with them, see if there is a good chemistry between you, see if you intellectually can connect with them, really to see if it's a good fit. That takes approximately 4 to 5 days. Once those interviews are over, we sit down together and say, yes, these are the distributors, this one, and this one. Subset question, how many distributors do you need? Well, what are your needs? What are your wants? What are your expectations? Do you want to cover the entire country of India, or do you want to start in the east, the west, the north, the south, a couple of those areas based on the saliencies that you find there? What's the geography of your market? We just talked about that. How technically complex is your product? Does your product require multiple sales calls to educate the client about its use, its benefits, how it can enhance their capabilities to succeed as a company? The bottom line is we have to answer the question, is one distributor capable of serving your target markets? My friends, experience has shown us that multiple distributors produce the best results. It's best if you have a backup plan that you not depend on 1 or 2 distributor partners. Why is that? Well, markets develop quickly. You can see how quickly India is developing. As your product grows in acceptance in India, can one distributor satisfy the marketplace? Can they really take advantage of the opportunities that are there for you? Sometimes challenges develop in the relationship. Sometimes those challenges are based on cultural differences that we're having difficulty spanning. Other times they can be the cause or caused by organic changes within the distributor relationship. Perhaps the distributor sales force that was maybe once 10 people is now 7 because 3 of the salesmen have left to seek other opportunities. So it's good to have a backup plan, because the one thing we don't want is, once your brand is established, once your product is there, we don't want to see a lag and see it fall back because of problems within the partnership. You ask the question, are there ways to improve existing partnership? Well, my friends, that's like how high is up. It really depends on the scope and nature of the required improvement, as well as our ability, your ability as the importer, to communicate the need for improvement. You know, most people do not like change. I don't like change. Maybe you don't like change. But really, some of the times, let's say most of the times, an agreement can often be accommodated. However, at times, the only options are to replace the current partner and actively seek additional partners. And all of that is issue dependent. What's the cause of the problem? How serious is it? How do we deal with it? Also today, we see an inclination to simultaneously tap online marketplaces to improve the current situation. A little while ago, we talked about using the distributor agent model entry as a launching pad for future expansion in India, what we like to call the India market penetration journey. And we see a launch from the distributor agent phase. And as we go up the stairs, we see the next step usually is a you appointing a resident salesperson there, and them operating under the Maier+Vidorno umbrella, whereby we provide all of the back office services to them, even including travel arrangements, accommodation arrangements, where their only job is to be in the field, in the marketplace, selling for you. When that succeeds, you want to expand further, the opportunity then arrives to open your own sales office there. Once that's firmly established, you begin to think, wow, I wonder if now is the time to make in India for India. And if the answer is yes, you have some options. Do you do that as a merger with an established manufacturer? Do you acquire an established manufacturer? Or, depending upon your product, your circumstances, your opportunities, do you choose to establish a pure greenfield manufacturing operation? And finally, to complete this journey, you establish local R&D to serve two purposes: enhance the value of your current product line and expand your product portfolio by introducing new products, new services. Just an example of a case study that we recently completed. The company was a Swedish-based pharmaceutical company that wanted to sell over-the-counter pharmaceuticals in India. What was the requirement that they handed to us? Well, they were looking for a distributor to sell their products pan-India, across the entire continent or the entire country. What was the solution? We found a distributor or distributor partners for the Swedish company that they were very happy with. And the value result? Currently, their full line of over-the-counter pharmaceuticals are in the registration process, a process that is being fully supported by the final shortlisted distributor. The last question, very important question: why a market entry specialist? And if you choose one, why should that one be Maier+Vidorno? Why a market entry specialist? First and foremost, that specialist understands India and Indians. He also understands the opportunities that are available to a foreign company, the challenges that are there that could hinder their success. The Indian market specialist really offers the client a value proposition. They reduce the risk and maximize your reward opportunity. In the final analysis, the Indian market entry specialist is really best positioned to effect an expedient and profitable entry into the Indian market for you. Now, if you agree that we should choose a market entry specialist, why should that be Maier+Vidorno? Well, our company personally chose Maier+Vidorno based on personal experience. One of our clients wanted to enter the Indian market. M+V did a market assessment for them, and the answer was no, now is not the right time. And what that told us was Maier+Vidorno, and results down the road have proven that decision to be correct. Maier+Vidorno is not just their rubber stamping, yes, come into the country, you can make it happen. They have proven performance, almost 20 years of successful experience that shows 1,200 plus satisfied customers and more than 150 highly trained specialists in every spectrum of the business enterprise, working for them and you from 4 strategically located competence centers, one in Delhi, one in Chennai, one in Pune, and one in Bangalore. Of equal importance is that there are 3 global offices serving the foreign base. First, one in Germany, one in Japan, and ours in the United States. And what function do we serve? What do? We enhance the ability for the market entrant to interface with Maier+Vidorno so that we make the entry process as efficient, as expedient, and as successful as is possible. Now let's summarize. Why expand into India? Well, India is a huge, young, fast-growing market with a great appetite for American products and services. Is the market for my product and/or service viable? The only way to answer that, my friends, is with a cost-effective market assessment. Why expand via a distribution partner? Well, we saw that it's the most cost-effective market entry model. It produces low risk with a high reward possibility, and it surely is a launching pad for future growth. What is the process for selecting a partner? Well, it's a proven proprietary process that we at Maier+Vidorno use that goes from a macro situation to a micro situation. All of the elements of selection are weighted, evaluated, and a short list is produced from which we then develop a visit with those you feel really best suit your situation. Why collaborate with Maier+Vidorno? Simply, folks, the most proven Indian market entry specialist producing results for almost 20 years. Slides shows just a few of our 1,200 plus clients. You'll see many US and Canadian based companies on there: Celanese, Alliance, Touch International. Pecurian is a Western Canadian company, Right Height, Flexicon, Ball, Herman Miller, Axel Tech, Quaker, and others. Our hope would be, based on your interest, that one day we might see your company's name on this list. My friends, it's now time to answer those questions that you may have submitted to us. And again, if we don't get to all of the questions today, you'll get a response from me, martin.p@mvindia.com, in which I'll answer your questions to the greatest degree possible. By the same token, if you'd like to discuss anything that we've talked about today in greater detail, or have other questions that you haven't registered with us, please feel free to phone me at 239-293-1335. And I've just been handed our first question. The first question comes from George in Charlotte, North Carolina. Distributor partners. The prices are very reasonable and we have a past relationship with them. What value do you add? George, that's a great question. And let me begin by saying that we have a high degree of respect and regard for the American Chamber of Commerce and all the chambers of commerce around the world. In fact, we are members at 2020 Management Consulting. We are members of the local Chamber of Commerce. But the assessments the potential distributors' financials, who they work for, who they sell to. I see we may have lost our connection, so let me go back and revisit that. We have a great deal of respect for the chambers, but we don't think the answers that they provide are detailed enough. We do a detailed analysis. We review the potential distributors' financials, who they work for, why they work for them, how successful they are, how well trained is their sales team, how responsive is their sales team, what kind of a job do they do after the sale, what kind of after the sale service do they provide. We get references from both their clients and their clients' customers. And lastly, when we get to that short list of 5 to 7, we personally visit them, interview them before suggesting any of them to you. And another question comes from Danielle in Hamilton, Ontario. Danielle writes, assuming the viability of a market for our line of cosmetics and hair care products, how long from the signing of a market assessment contract until the distributor is actively selling our product? Danielle, thanks much. That's a great question, and glad to see we have a Canadian with us today. The typical market assessment takes 2, perhaps 3 months. Once that's completed in response to the question of is the market viable, and in your case, yes, it is, we then do the distributor search. That requires another 2 months, typically. So we're looking at 5 months. Then we make our week of visits to the clients, that short list of clients. We review the result of those visits. So when we put everything together, from the time you sign the contract till the time the products are being introduced to the market, typically 5 to 6 months. Now, in your case, it's going to be longer because all of your products, hair care products, makeup, lipsticks, any cosmetics, according to a 2013 law. I think it was 2013 that it was promulgated in India. All of those products have to be registered. And interestingly enough, when you're registering hair care products, you have to register shampoo independent of the conditioner. You can register 50 lipsticks together, but you can't register shampoo and hair conditioner together. So that could lengthen the process out from 5 to 6 months to perhaps 10 to 12 months. Oh, my friends, I see that I'm out of time and I'm going to have to move on and respond to any of your questions via email. My friends, this will conclude our presentation today. And again, on behalf of the staffs and management of 2020 Management Consulting and Maier+Vidorno, we thank you for joining our webinar and certainly send you every best wish for continuing success in all of your business endeavors. Until we meet again, trust that you'll be well and enjoy a great day. Thank you and goodbye.